Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Hey, I'm in the excursion again, so again, I'll apologize for any wind noise that you hear. I said the other day, got to replace a door seal on this, so it lets some of the wind through, but this ain't Hollywood anyway, right? If you want it to be Hollywood, just imagine that we're trying to get out of town and it's windy. And that'll make it seem exciting, right? I want to talk a little bit today about, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing first. I'm headed out to check on the second and third ring of our alternate locations in case we have to skedaddle. Other people refer to those as bug out locations, and that's fine too. I mentioned the other day that I kind of do it in rings. If we need to get out of town, I have a series of places, of stopping places, in case we need to go by foot or bicycle or whatever. And also I like to make sure that they're clear if we're going to go by vehicle. But I have them about every 10 miles because you go as fast as your slowest person. And we're going to go about 10 miles a day. Now that doesn't seem like very fast. I get it, but that's what we're going to do, and so that's how I plan. And that, that all depends on who's with you and what you're taking. The reason that I'm doing it is because I think we've got a dangerous time ahead of us, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I have them laid out, like I say, in rings, and I'm going out to check. I checked the 10-miler on the last video or a couple videos back, whenever. Now I'm going to go out and check the next two spots, the next two rings. And what I'm mainly just looking at, because I haven't driven out here for a little while, and they're all on the way to our final destination. I want to make sure, that the roads are open, any detours, just anything that I wouldn't want to surprise me if I'm trying to get out in a hurry. And then I'll go back, making sure everything's okay. We'll probably go down, maybe later this week, we'll make it a family affair and head down all the way. And I can tell you what one of the large points is Clinton, Missouri. It's on our way to our final destination. We'll probably take a test run down this route. It's not a direct line from where we live to Clinton, but it's the safest. And we'll go down and have some pizza at our favorite pizza place in Clinton, Missouri, and it'll give me a chance to run the route, make sure that everything looks good, everything's clear, and nothing big and bad has happened since the last time I ran it. So that's what I'm doing, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the dangerous times coming up here. Maybe you all have seen the latest idiocy up in, is it Portland or Salem or wherever it is, wherever those Antifa idiots were rioting and throwing stuff at the Patriots, and the police were responding and all this. I've put an interesting news loop over on the Patreon site, and I'm about to put, after I shoot this, I'm going to shoot another one to put just on Patreon for now, about dealing with these kinds of things. I don't put the specifics here, and that's why I suggest that if you are serious about this stuff, you need to go over on Patreon. It's only $1 a month, and it's got everything that I put here, plus it has things which I address specifics. How do we address specific situations? And not only that, but the conversation and the comments over there are exceptional, and you learn a lot from those too. So join me on Patreon if you can. If you've got $1 a month, join me over there. You'll get a lot out of it. You'll be glad you did, I think. Anyway, the idiocy in Portland We knew that it wasn't going to stop with the election, but it's going to continue and continue because the agenda behind this is extremely deep. The agenda is the communist agenda. Most of the people in our country won't admit that because they won't even consider it, and that's the danger. They're hiding in their idiocy, and that poses a danger for us. If they want to be stupid, that's fine, but the problem is that they bring problems to us because of their stupidity. So that's going to grow, and we know that it's going to grow in the large cities. Now, if you've been following the news, you know that the trial for that officer who is being tried for the murder of, what's that guy's name? George Floyd. That trial is about to start. His family came out and gave a press conference that I saw this morning, as often happens, detailing exactly what would be an acceptable verdict and what would not. And, they don't say it in so many words, but the message is there. And it's designed to do a couple of things. It's designed to bring pressure on the community. It's designed to put pressure on the jurors. It's designed to put pressure on the judge. And if you don't think judges can be pressured, think again. Some can't, but many can. You never know what judge you're going to pull and what their political backgrounds are. We've seen some. Back in law enforcement, I saw shenanigans that when I told people about them, they just wouldn't believe. But I think in the last few years, people have seen. They're starting to see behind that curtain of the justice system and seeing that it has less to do with justice than it does with politics. So these things are designed first to bring pressure on the community, so that they hopefully, they're trying it in the court of public opinion. They're getting it all geared up, and then the second is to give cover to civil unrest that will occur. To the extent that it occurs, we don't know, but it will occur after a verdict is returned. It doesn't matter what the verdict is. It's kind of like, why do certain cities riot and burn their town down when their basketball team or football team or whatever it is, wins a championship? There's no understanding that kind of stupidity. But I'm going to make a whole nother one that occurred to me today about dealing with idiots, and that could take a lot of time. I'm not going to jump off in that direction now. So there is going to be civil unrest, and if you have taken any time and you've looked into the evidence that's come out, some of the information that's come out about the George Floyd case, you probably know that there is an excellent chance that officer will not be convicted. I'm not going to get into the details here. It's better if you're interested for you to, if you don't already know, go find it out yourself. Go do a little research. But just because everybody in the world thinks that something is one way doesn't mean that it is. And too many people jump on. They say, well, that's terrible and this and that, and it looks bad on camera. Yes, it does. But you know something? Evidence, real evidence, often leads in a different direction than an initial observation has you thinking, right? So there's a good chance that this is going to come out with either an acquittal for the officer, more likely than that a hung jury, and maybe more likely than that a conviction on a lesser charge. Any of those things are going to cause rioting. Now, it's not just going to cause rioting in the city where the trial is. It's going to cause rioting across the whole stinking country. and there's going to be t-shirts, and there's going to be slogans, and there's going to be yelling and screaming, and there is going to be burning and rioting and stopping traffic, and innocent people getting caught in the middle, and probably some hurt, maybe some killed. It's the world we live in now, right? That's what I foresee coming up on this summer. Things always get worse during the summertime. You may, if you've been with me for a while, you may have seen old videos that I've mentioned that I was 14 years old in 1968 when the riots were in Kansas City. They were all over the country. They weren't just in Kansas City, but I was in Kansas City, so that's why it affected me. I was 14 years old, and I lived on kind of the border between the areas occupied by different people. I'll just say that. And so it was a flashpoint. And we were all carrying knives by the time we were 14. I remember the National Guard patrolling the streets. I remember the gunshots and the sirens and the fires and half the city going up in flames. And all the other cities were too. And then the whole country just kind of went down. Now, because of that were a number of things. There had been riots in Watts the year before. In 1968, Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy were killed. I don't think Kennedy was killed until after the riots. Doesn't matter. It just made everything flash. And it becomes a very, very dangerous environment for people who, number one, are ignorant and wander into the wrong areas by mistake. Number two, people who think that it's safe because it's always been safe before. And number three, for the people who kind of like to be a part of it and edge up against it and take a look at it and see what's going on. Those types of things, as we saw, was it last summer or the summer before, I guess, are not any longer contained within the cities or the inner cities as we think of them. They're mobile. They reach out through the inner suburbs and into the outer suburbs and even to the small towns and the smaller cities. This is an orchestrated movement. All of these organizations work together, and they have one or two purposes and goals. The main one is the total change of our country. If I were going to get into mentioning a second goal, this video might not stay up, so I won't. But think about it. And as these things flash, as these things happen, every day becomes more and more dangerous. Now, what do you want to think about doing? More than ever before, in the last several years anyway. It's important that you tighten up your security, your personal security, the security of your family. Keep your family tight. Keep your kids close. Know where they are. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to raise their kids. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just people pay me money to talk about this stuff, right? So please don't be offended. Keep your kid. Know where they are. Know where they are all the time. Impress on them the importance of good communication. You know, I occasionally am called on to give talks to to young people, and I haven't been in law enforcement for a long time, but when I have a chance, and I really enjoy talking to the ones in Cub Scouts and young Boy Scout and Girl Scout age, because they're interested. They just soak it up. They're so interested, especially when a guy who is a policeman comes in and talks. One of the first things that I ask them is, what do you think is the most important piece of equipment that a police officer carries? And And of course, there will be some people, some of the kids will say gun, and usually it's the boys that will say gun. Almost always there is somebody, and it's usually a girl, who will say your radio. And I'll say, that's exactly right. And that's the important, and I tell them that that's a good example of why communications are so important. That if I was surrounded by a bad situation, I would rather have a radio that I could call in help than a gun that I could, have an effect 14 times and not being able to let anybody know where I was and that I needed help. And this is I use this as an example of why communications is important in a family. And when you approach it from that way, a lot of the kids will kind of understand. So tighten up. Make sure that your family communications are really tight. Does everybody know where everybody is all the time? How long they're going to be there? Where they're going to leave? When they're going to leave? Where they're going to go after they leave? Are you leaving work and you decide to go do something on the way home? Hey, call that other person. Call your wife. Call your husband. Call your kids. Call whatever, and say, hey, I'm stopping over here for a little bit, and I'll be home X amount later than usual. That doesn't mean that it's a matter of good security and good communication. It doesn't mean that you have to account for your activities. It's a matter of respect and security. So explain that to your kids. Make sure that everybody in your family knows that, so you can tighten up on that. And then also make sure that whenever you're on your vehicle, now your home should be secure. Certainly, I'm sure that everybody here pays a lot of attention to their home security. I think many people pay a little bit less attention to their vehicle security. That's a real detailed subject that probably we won't get into here. But just realize that your vehicle can be both a fortress and a weapon. Make sure that you're secure in your vehicle, and that there are plenty of things in your vehicle that can help you secure it, and that can help you live and survive for an extended period of time. Now I'm going to turn around here, and I'm going to get off before I show any signs. And I'm going to head back for a little bit, and then I'll make another one. But I'm sorry, did I bring you too close to me there? I'm not used to driving or shooting videos while I'm driving. I'm not as good. There's some guys out there doing great, and I don't. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say here. I'm going to put one up, like I said, over on Patreon that's going to talk a little bit more about particulars and specifics we might want to keep in mind. And just realize that the time we're coming into can be very dangerous. Let's come out the other side okay. It's good to take a stand, but first you want to make sure that you protect yourself and your family. So I guess that's it. Remember, like we always say, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And preparing for a hot and potentially dangerous summer is different than preparing for a cold winter. Just realize that and adjust your thoughts and your preparations accordingly. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.